Welcome to Target Market Insights, the multifamily and marketing podcast. Each week, John Kasman interviews multifamily and marketing experts to teach you how to find the best places to invest, attract investors, and grow your portfolio. You are listening to Target Market Insights with your host, John Kasman.
Welcome to Target Market Insights. I'm your host, John Kasman, and I want to thank you for joining us for another great episode. Now, if you're enjoying this podcast, do me a favor and leave us a 5-star rating and review. And if you haven't already, make sure you hit the subscribe button so you don't miss an episode. Now, if you're interested in multifamily investing and you want to review a sample deal, you are in luck because we have a special download on our website of a sample deal package. Just go to kasmancapital.com/sample deal, and you'll also join our mailing list to get tips and exclusive investment opportunities if you qualify. Now, today we're going to be talking to JayRs Domantay. But before we bring him on, I want to invite you to join me at the best ever real estate investing advice ever conference in Keystone, Colorado, this coming February 20th through the 22nd. Now, I've been going to the conference since the first year. I'm sorry, let's start again. Now, I've been going to this conference since the first year, and I've enjoyed it every time. In fact, my first large apartment deal was with partners that I met at the Best Ever Conference. At this year's event, you'll have exclusive access to 3 days of sessions and networking events at the luxurious Keystone Resort. There will be nationally recognized speakers, breakout talks, author panels, and much more to help you elevate your real estate portfolio. Grab your seat next to mine. Just go to bec20.com/ref/JayKasman. Again, that's bec20.com/ref/JayKasman. Now, let's bring on my man, JayRs Domantay. JayRs was born in the Philippines and moved to America when he was 17 years old. He currently owns a portfolio of 27 units, and he is a full-time controller of a nonprofit company in Chicago and is currently a licensed CPA and a real estate broker. Let's welcome to the show, JayRs.
Hey, what's up, John? Thanks for having me, man. It's an honor.
Thank you for coming on. It's good to talk to you. We've known each other for some time now, and I'm excited to see your growth and talk about your growth and what you've been working on. But you really came from the Philippines to America as kind of a young man. Talk to me a little bit about your journey and just give us a little bit more context of who you are.
Yeah. Like you said, I was born in the Philippines. So, I immigrated here in 2007. It's crazy. The Philippines is a tropical country. So when I got here in Chicago, right, it's the Bears is in the Super Bowl. Everything is great, but it's chilly. It's chilly now, right? So I came from the Philippines. In the Philippines, it's a different culture than America. Like kids like me and the 17-year-olds not really working. So it's a culture shock for me. I didn't speak English quite well, even though we know English and we study it in a second language. But from there, my parents didn't have a lot of money. So I kind of grind through college, went to community college, and then transferred to DePaul University in Chicago, took accounting, and didn't really learn about real estate till I was 25, 26. Until then, I still didn't pull the trigger because, I was one of those kids, I just want to party, right? And, get a condo in Lakeview and be done with it, And so, but gladly I didn't take the plunge because my roommate at the time that we were going to partner together to get a condo kind of back out. So kind of went to starting over, and finally, I'm 27-year-old, I bought my first property. It's, I'm glad I bought it. It's still, I'd say, my worst buy till now, but it's something once you buy your first property, that gives you the confidence to just, pulling the trigger over and over again gets easier deal after deal. So yeah, I don't know if I kind of fast forward from there, and let me know how you want to take that.
Yeah, man. No, I love it. So you basically came to the United States. You went to school. Was that the reason you came to the United States, was for college, or what really sparked you to move here in the first place?
Yeah. So my mom, when I was growing up in the Philippines, it was nice because I didn't really it wasn't bad for me. I was playing basketball in the Philippines. I actually have a offer in college to go to college there because I was still in high school to do a full ride. But my mom came here in 2007 in America, and she just wants us to be all together. So 2007, my brother and I came here, and then my dad in 2010, and we're all united after like almost a decade of being separated from each other. So
why did your mom move here?
I just wanted a great life. Like I think most immigrants want that American dream, right? There's more opportunities here, and I see it now. To be honest with you, that there's a lot of opportunities. Just depends on how you take advantage of those. So.
That's awesome hearing about your mom moving to the country, really to give you guys a great opportunity and more opportunities to really just take advantage of what life has to offer. So you kind of went to college. You said you studied accounting. And then, from having your roommate, you were looking at that first investment. Talk to me about that first investment property.
So yeah, that first investment property, didn't know anything about real estate when I bought it. The goal at the time is just to live for free, and I was looking at realtor, and I saw this realtor close, a friend of mine's property. So I was like, hey, she might be a good realtor to have, right? No research whatsoever, and the task that I had for her is just to get me something that I can live for free on. And we've looked several properties, nothing really kind of like come out that I really like. And this one property where in the same neighborhood, Berwyn, Illinois, a 2-flat came up for $280,000. And I saw it. It was nice. It was brand new. That's why it's the worst buy, right? It's the brand new. And I was like, okay, this might work. So we offered, and we got it under contract. And once I bought it, my mortgage was $2,100 with a PMI, PITI, and all that stuff. And it was 3.25% interest rate. So that was a couple of years
ago. Wow.
It was awesome.
How much did you have to put down?
I had 3.5%. So, it's like
so FHA financing.
Yep. All in with a 3% credit, which is a nice structure to have for any first time home buyer. Like $7,500. And that was it. I acquired a property for $7,500.
I love it, man. So you are the living embodiment of the thing I tell everyone is a house hack is a great way to get started in multifamily. You got in with $7,500 out of your pocket, and you got a 2-flat. You're living in one unit. You rent out the other unit. How much was your monthly payment as far as the mortgage and all that?
So the mortgage and utilities is about $2,300 to $2,400, right? Which is hard costs, so what I call it, right? That's what you're gonna pay every month, regardless. And I have the upstairs unit is brand new, so my rent is above market. I was renting it for $1,450. The upstairs is a 2-bedroom, and I have a roommate that was paying me $500. And then I have the garage that was renting out for $100. So I was really kind of like creative. I went from, living with my mom, right? And then now I have this brand new house with a big yard and not knowing anything about real estate. Actually, the day after I closed is when I joined Bigger Pockets, which is, I think that was the best thing I can do at that time, because they introduced me to a lot of resources like a podcast like yours, Bigger Pockets podcast, every networking event in the area and all that. I just immerse myself, man, to learn everything, how to be a landlord. Because at this time, now what, right? You acquired a property, now what? You got to rent it out. How do you, screen? I think, most, I'm not saying like yours is awesome, right? The other podcasts like Joe Fairless, Bigger Pockets, for the most part, other podcasts just celebrate the success, I closed this, I closed that. This is great, right? I have $100,000 in profit. But the nuance in between is the one that, we don't talk about, right? So yeah, I mean, there was a lot of, I mean, I'm sure you know this as well as I am. Like, there's a lot of there's no overnight success, right? You know, there's like probably 10 years of hard work, and then all of a sudden you blow up. That's pretty much what happens.
No, I love it, man. You talked about this deal here where you essentially got out paying just a few $100 a month for all expenses, with the rent coming from the top unit. You had a roommate paying you over $500. You're renting out the garage. So great way to get in. To your point, from that moment, starting to educate yourself more, using bigger pockets, listening to different podcasts, finding different resources to help you educate yourself. Let's talk about the next deal. So you take this 2-flat, you house hack that, you've got FHA financing. When was the next deal, and how did you process or purchase that one?
So the next deal was, because I was hooked after that, right? So the next deal, I bought a foreclosure, a 2-flat foreclosure in Cicero, Illinois. Man, I think that what propelled me to keep buying. It was 7 months later that I bought it. It was $88,000. You know, very cheap for a 2-flat. And basically, there was a tenant living in there, or I'm not sure it's the owner, before I bought it. So it was a foreclosure in the market, right? But the key is taking action and going to see the actual property. So when I saw the property, there was a tenant in there, which means it's movable. Like most foreclosure people think it's not move-in ready, right? So I saw it, took action right away without knowing where I'm going to get the down payment, because at this time I have to put 25% down. So I was under contract. At this time, I was still building my team. You know, I changed realtor, but I don't have a right lender, the right attorney, the right inspector. You know, I was still kind of like scrambling on getting, the team around me. But my lender said, you got to put down at least $25,000 with the closing costs. And at the time, I used my 401k, hustled my way. I was driving Lyft in the morning, at night, before and after work, because I work downtown, so it's easier, right? So, and you just hustle, I mean, once you're under contract, you find yourself very resourceful, I think. So sometimes you have to put yourself in that situation, and then you'll find, your large capacity.
So you get under contract, you're driving Lyft, you're using your 401k. How much money did you need to come up with to acquire this property?
So from I remember, about $25,000 to $30,000.
And how much did you have when you signed the contract? How much did you have in your bank account at that moment?
I think at that moment, man, I had 12 grand.
So you had to hustle for at least half, if not more.
Yes, definitely.
And how long did you have on the contract?
I had it under contract for 2 months.
So in 60 days, you had to find a way to come up with somewhere around $15,000 to $20,000.
Yes. So
I know you didn't make that driving Lyft.
Yeah. So a lot of that is the 401k stuff, right? But okay. I was driving. I knew I was gonna do real estate. So I was hustling. From the moment I bought my first property to the moment I closed the second one, right? But but at that time I thought I still have enough, because closing my first one, I was like $7,500. All right, all I need is $10,000, and I can find another one. But that's because I wasn't educated enough at the time, still, right? So, and then when they said, okay, you need to put down 25%, I'm like, all of a sudden, wow, I don't know if I can do this, right? So now I have to scramble. It's a good thing I have a full-time job that I can tap in my 401k. I got a loan, I didn't withdraw, because you have penalty if you withdraw. So, but calculated the numbers, man, it turned out all right. And that my mortgage was $750, and I was, coming in, it was like $2,300. So it was, one of those deals that kind of like, wow, this is the power of it, right? And then I refinanced about 6 months later, got all my money back, and then my mortgage went up about a couple $100.
That's awesome, man. Awesome. Great story. And yeah, so it sounds like you thought you were covered because you thought you could do what you did for that first deal with the FHA loan, right. Realized that you couldn't because this was an investment and you already used the FHA loan. You can only use the FHA loan one time within a year. You can only have one active at a time. and you have to live in a property for a year and a day before you could even try to use it again. So you didn't realize that when you signed the agreement and then found out you had to put 25% down and found a way to make it happen. So, I mean, that's kudos to you for being resourceful, for figuring out a way to come up with the capital, putting the money down and getting that second deal. Now you got a couple cash flowing assets. Let's fast forward. You mentioned that deal was in Berwyn, you said, correct?
The
So
second one.
second one's in Berwyn. So you're up to 27 units now. So you've done a few more larger deals, a few 6-unit deals. What sparked you to go from kind of the duplexes up to the 6 units?
So I guess the short answer is it's easier. Bank are more easier to deal with. In commercial world, it's more so about relationship, other than them looking at you and your finances. I was lucky because I got introduced to commercial world because of the seller financing. I bought 14 units. That's why I grew so fast for the last 3 years. 14 units in one seller. So I bought the 5-unit from her, and she just gave me seller financing for the next 2. So, and it's just easier, man. Like, commercial is so much easier. You can be more creative. You can partner. You can get private money to put down as the down payment, which I don't usually recommend. But if it's a good deal, you got to find a way to kind of like make it happen, But it kind of like push you to kind of like look at how your business as a whole for your rental portfolio, on how you systematize it. Because I think we can touch on this right now. I'm kind of like in that limbo of landlord hell, like I have 27 units. I have a full-time job. I help, my coworkers or other people kind of like, buy their first house. So for me, it's like, it's harder, there's maintenance call kind of like seems like every week, right? So I'm looking more so now to work on the process and system. But commercial portfolio, right now I'm looking for like a bigger one, actually, just because it this very well than most people is there's the scalability. You can hire a full-time maintenance person, you can hire a property manager, because you have that scale, and the cash flow kind of can cover that.
Yeah, Jared, I think it sounds like you're in that place where you scale beyond kind of the small portfolio where it's just a couple of rentals, and now you have 27 units where there's something kind of going on consistently, right? But because you're full time, you're looking at how much time can you dedicate to handling all those things, as opposed to outsourcing the right things and continuing to scale up. So, I mean, a couple things you should look at certainly are the different types of systems and processes. Those maintenance calls, you probably shouldn't be taking them. You should find a way to automate that process so they come in. If it's something that you need to address, certainly you can address it, but you're not spending all your time going back and forth diagnosing those things, and then figuring out how do you continue to scale. I kind of want to rewind backwards though. You mentioned that part of the way you scaled was getting 14 units from one seller through seller financing. How were you able to get seller financing? Was this something that the seller pushed? Did you ask for it? How exactly did you structure that?
So my fourth property was a 5-unit in Cicero, Illinois. Wow, this is kind of like the most intensive in terms of time and kind of like rehab that I've done in my short career through real estate. So I bought this 5-unit for $280,000 in Cicero, Illinois, and the seller, it was just dilapidated. The worst thing is there's tenants in there, so like carpet with forgive how I picture this, with dog poo, dog pee, just walls just nasty, right? So I had
lovely living environment.
Oh man, it was bad. It was bad. But the landlord, the owner was just an old couple. They're just done, right? So I bought it. It was kind of crazy because
How did you come across it?
it was in MLS.
It's MLS.
Yeah, but I think this is a good tip for for your audience. And like if the owner meets you and the listing agent is not not is lazy enough to have the owner meet you in the property, that's a tip that you can negotiate yourself with the actual owner. So that's what happened. So I saw the owner. We look at a couple units, and I'm like, I'm gonna give you an offer today. If I give you an offer today, full price, please give me the property. So kind of like build the rapport with the owner. So I did. I offered same day, full price, because it was good enough. Because that's what I do, right? I'm an accountant, so I like to think I'm pretty good with numbers. So I look at the numbers. It looks good enough, and I close it. I close it, and basically what I did is turned around the property with put new floors in, new paint, like paint the cabinets because it was still good. Just turn it around, and like 6 months later, have a full occupied building, and it's not an eyesore now, to the actual block.
And JR, when you put in that full offer, was that contingent on seller financing?
No, this is just like a normal transaction with a.
Got it.
And then that's when I turned the building around, they saw that I know what I'm doing, and they're like, "Oh, I got a couple more buildings. Are you interested?" But it was a while. It was a long process. It took me about a year for them to realize, okay, this guy is serious, and they want to grow. And they actually took me under their wing, to be quite honest. And they're offering me to kind of like land it. It's crazy. Like it's a couple deals can get your track record, and then all of a sudden, people will know that as long as you have integrity and you're impeccable with your word, people are actually like try to help you out.
No, I love it. I love it. So, and then they ultimately gave you seller financing on future deals when they said, "Hey, we got other properties." Got it. So that makes sense. So establishing that relationship, establishing the rapport really opened up the door to seller financing because they really didn't want to just put it out in the market. They saw you did what you said you were going to do. They saw the care that you took in the property, and they wanted you to kind of be able to take it over and continue to grow and manage it for them. So that makes a ton of sense. Great growth there. For someone listening now, you talked about just the different advantages of commercial with the lending process being easier, there being more creative ways to structure deals. What's something that was kind of surprising to you going from kind of the residential 2 to 4 unit space up to the 5+ unit commercial space?
It's actually the lending that was surprising for me because they didn't ask a lot of questions. They didn't require the same documents several times, right? They look at the property, they look at the rent roll, they look at the expenses, and it helps that but the key is it's easier if you have if you have experience already, right? If you jump in by yourself on a commercial property without experience, then they're going to ask how you're going to manage the property.
Yeah.
So the key is I was already managing a few units in my portfolio, and to jump from 3-4 unit to 5 unit is an easy task rather than you without units and then jumping for like a 6 unit, for example. So it was great. Everybody was like literally like I think I signed probably 25% paper, compared to like doing an FHA loan.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I love your trajectory because you started with that house hack, which is exactly how we got started. You transitioned into a couple of more smaller residential 2 to 4 unit properties, moved up to a couple of 6 unit properties, and now you're at this place where you're at 27 units. Where are you looking to go next?
So next for me, I'd like to explore a lot of stuff. I'd like to do kind of like a passive deal, just to kind of like be in a passenger seat of, someone like you or like a Joe Fairless or a great operator, right? Because I kind of want to explore that kind of like industry and that niche of investing. As far as just me personally, I'd like to continue growing, maybe 8 to 24 units. Because the key is, for me, it's always been like, 100 units, like, your normal 100 units, $100 per unit, and then just be freed up, from my full-time job, right? Then after that, just explore a bunch of things, man. I've always want to be immersed in real estate, especially at this point in my life. I that's why I got my license, kind of like explore that, brokerage side of things, and then, the property management of things, which I know a lot of people is kind of like shying away, but I still want to like look at it, right? Because I imagine, and this is maybe like 5 to 10 years later when we talk again, I'll have my portfolio, which is the foundation, with the brokerage side, which is a lead generation, and then the property management side, which is the support for the foundation, right? So that's kind of like how I look at going forward 5 to 10 years from now.
Well, I mean, you're very active, right? I mean, to your point, you're active on the broker side, the property management side, and you're an investor, and you have a full-time job. So you're pretty busy and pretty active with everything. But they do kind of work together where you can stay in tune with the market, with the changes in the cycle, with rent changes, rental demand, things like that. You're continuing to provide value and kind of helping out and staying from that perspective. I know on the broker side, this is kind of a newer element for you, starting to work with other people. Talk about why you decided to get licensed and really starting to work with other investors as well.
So the main key is I really didn't want to be a broker. It's just a matter of like my girlfriend, and at the time of this podcast, I'm not proposing it, but in a couple of weeks I'm proposing. So by the time this come out, I guess I can say my fiance.
So I better keep this in the can until you propose.
Yes. Right. So, the broker side, I just, you have him in your podcast. His name is John Warren. He's my realtor. And, I just keep referring the people to, the people I know to him. Right. And then my girlfriend said, you know what to do, kind of like, you can add value. You probably can add value more than, a lot of realtors in town, right? So why don't you just study and, just get the license, right? Because for me, it's one of those things like, okay, well, yeah, that's right. And then, well, this is really what the key is. I bought a house with my realtor not seeing it. So, basically, right? Basically, it's like, okay, free money, right? So that's what the key for me. Nothing against John. John is an awesome resource, but, I think it was time for me to grow up at that point.
Well, listen, I think at some point, when you have realtors, you certainly want to take care of your realtors and stay top of mind and help them help you. But
Right.
If you are going to be very hands-on like you are, if you're going to self-manage, if you're going to look for your own deals, it may make sense to go ahead and get your license. You can have access and you're not paying commission for something that you're pretty much doing yourself. So I get it if you're going to be active and really playing that role yourself. So that makes a ton of sense.
And help a lot of people too, man. I have my staff here. I don't know. I put a video on Facebook. Well, I closed one transaction already as an agent, and I kind of like you kind of produce content, right? And because this one person that I close with, he's my staff. He's he's making not a lot of money, but people doesn't know that if you have a good team, you can make it happen. It's just the right information. So, and I have him like telling him, his experience and how the close went, on what he learned, and what he can advise people like, maybe like just want to start buying their first house.
How has a failure or apparent failure set you up for later success? A big failure of mine is not having cash reserve, right? The past couple months, there was a lot of rain in the area, and a couple of my roofs kind of like, had a leak. And, I do have enough cash reserve. It's just not, you cannot have more, or can never have enough, right? So, I pride myself not to tap into my W-2 job and just have my investment, portfolio kind of like fund itself. But at that point, I had to tap into my W-2 job because I didn't have enough cash reserve. And I think that's more so to growing too fast. Don't get me wrong, I love that I have 27 units and a nice talking point, right? Especially as an agent, it's very interesting, but
because of that, because I grow so much, I didn't have enough capital to kind of support. So my focus now is to have every building of mine, which is 8 properties in total, to be healthy, right? Just healthy roof, mechanicals, and stuff like that, because it's very important. Because if you don't have good roof, mechanicals, then you don't have tenant.
I love it. What is the book you've recommended or gifted the most in the last year?
So, you know, your typical rich dad cash flow quadrant, right? But I think the one that I talk about a lot is by Brian Tracy, Eat That Frog. I don't know if you heard of it. You know, I think it's a nice foundation for everybody, not just in people in real estate. Brian Tracy said, you always want to eat the ugliest frog. So, you know, think about what your goals are, right? Every day you look at the biggest one, the ugliest one that you don't want to do, and do it first, and then everything else should follow.
Give me a digital or mobile resource you recommend for your business.
Man, right now I do a lot of Google Sheets and Dropbox. You know, I'm not that complicated, you know, enough yet. You know, I'm very hands-on, like you said. So that's what I use.
What is a daily habit that helps you stay focused on your goals?
The miracle morning, man. You know, every morning I try to do all those 6 steps. You know, you wake up, drink a glass of water, and then do my miracle morning. It keeps me focused, kind of set up the day, you know, and, you know, be in the right mood.
What's one thing you know now that you wish you knew when you were starting out?
One thing I know now that I wish I knew starting now. Just, again, I always go back to the cash reserve, man. You know, you can never have enough. I listen to a lot of podcasts like yours and Joe Fairless, and you know, like the key to having a good portfolio is, you know, long-term financing, having enough cash reserve, and cash flow. So all those 3 things, if you have those 3 things, I think you can go by even in any market, I think.
What advice would you give to a smart-driven college student about the real world?
Wow, I was reading this question and I thought about it a lot, right? Because I'm still fairly young. I'm 30, and if I would talk to my previous self, I would say, and I have a great job, you know, I would say consider the cost of college before you take out a loan. And the reason I say that is because there should be, I don't know if there's a study about this, but there should be like a study on how much value does a college student, a college, you know, education bring up to be successful. Because everybody knows there's people who are successful that didn't go to college, and there's definitely people who's not successful who went to college. So that's what I would do even before they go to college. Yeah.
Love it. What advice should they ignore?
Advice they should ignore, which I've learned quite a bit, because, you know, being in real estate, you know, and you know this, you have a meetup on your own. You have a lot of people, you know, that will tell you advice and, you know, what you want to do and stuff like that. Just confirm that they've done it and they experience it. Don't take advice from somebody that, you know, I remember starting out, they said, oh, don't do it. Why keep buying real estate? Don't do it. They never had real estate, right? So don't listen to those people. Listen to the ones that actually done it.
What are you curious about right now?
Oh man, I'm curious about Airbnb. I have a couple of units that's small for a 1-bedroom that I think it can be profitable, you know, if I just Airbnb it. So that's what I'm curious about. I'm talking to Bill Powers. You know, you know Bill. Yeah, he knows. He do quite a bit of Airbnb, so I'm trying to kind of like experiment on that.
Awesome. Yeah, Bill's a good friend. You should definitely talk to him. He's a good resource for you. All right, give me the best place to grab a bite, and I'm going to say in all of Chicago.
Oh, Chicago. Wow. So John took this from me. John Warren took this from me, the tasty corner. So I'm gonna give you a Filipino restaurant that if you go to Chicagoland area, you should check it out. It's called Lola Tining. It's just at the outskirts in Oak Park, Illinois, of Chicago. It's called Lola Tining. It's like a small joint that you can have.
Lola Tining?
Yeah, Lola Tining. I can send you the address.
All right.
And stuff like that. It's delicious, man. I don't know if you had Filipino food yet, but if you're in Chicago, I know you come here every month. You know, one day, you know, when you come by, let's go.
All right. Sounds good, man. I look forward to it. We'll definitely check that out. Speaking of Chicago, we didn't really talk about the market, so I would like to quickly talk a little about the city. What are you seeing right now as far as neighborhoods, market dynamics? What's jumping out to you as far as any changes you've seen over the last year?
So yeah, the last year, so I drive Lyft, and that's kind of like how I still kind of like look at neighborhoods and stuff like. That's the reason I drive Lyft, and obviously funding my real estate, right? My niche is the west suburb, just west of Chicago. So in Cicero, Broadview, Berwyn, Illinois, I have all my properties there. What I've seen so far is the 2 to 4 units is still going strong, to be honest. But the single family is the one that kind of like stabilized a little bit. There's more stability now. If not, it actually went down quite a bit. But the 2 to 4 unit, just because I think more and more people are knowing about house hacking, and, millennials, that would like to have the free living, So I think, our lending is still tight. So, the spread is still pretty tight to get lending, although it's getting a little, looser, but the fundamentals still there, right? So as long as you have those 3 things that Joe Fairless said, the 3 admittable laws of of investing is cash flow, cash reserve, and long-term financing, I think you'll be fine.
No, I love it. Well, listen, JR, it's been a lot of fun catching up with you, hearing your story about how you really got into real estate through the house hack, leveraging that to build a portfolio of 2 to 4 units before transitioning into the commercial space, getting those 6-unit properties. So thank you for sharing that story. And not to mention how you got seller financing and built up credibility with the seller to do that, which I think is a really great takeaway for our listeners of, getting in, doing what you say you're going to do, and then kind of coming around and seeing how you can build on that relationship further. So great insights there all around. We look forward to seeing you next time we're in Chicago. Thank you for coming on the show, man, and take care.
Thanks, John. I appreciate it.